Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fearless and Free TV and the second installation of Wonder Women Wednesdays. I'm super excited to bring this guest on this morning. I've been watching Heather for a while, and she was recently on Nicholas Benyamin's show and has been on shows with American Gumption, and I've been hearing great things about what she's up to in the world. Before I bring her on, I just want to let you all know that if you haven't downloaded your free book yet, Rise Up. It's a simplified guide to the Great Awakening, Spiritual Revolution, and the Ascension. Hop on over to my website at victoriareynolds.com and grab a free copy of this book. It will help to explain everything that's going on in the world right now. And I also have a chapter entirely dedicated to understanding terminology. So I know this is new terminology for people who are just beginning their spiritual awakening process. And so now let's bring in Heather. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to meet you. So I know we talked just before I jumped on camera. Sorry, everyone, we're starting a few minutes late. It is Mercury retrograde, and if you don't protect your electronic devices, they can get a little sticky. So
here we are.
Heather's running a few minutes late with technical issues. The only technical issues I've had with this is that my guests have been asking if they can reschedule. So
at least I'm here.
Kind of expecting that. So Heather,
yes,
I intentionally don't send out questions in advance because I prefer conversations that are from the heart and not memorized, so to speak. So I want to know, and Wonder Women Wednesdays also focuses a lot on the women's story. So I want to know a little bit about your story, where you came from applies to that, how you stumbled across the kind of work that you're now doing, and then how you're using the work that you're doing to make an impact in the world. So tell me about you.
About me. Wow. Okay. Well, I don't know where you want me to start, but just to say that I have been spiritual for an extremely long time. Didn't know quite my power or what that meant, but life just kind of worked its way to the point where I am now. And now I'm at the point, and I'll work back in a minute, but I just trust. I just trust, and I ask to put me on the path where I need to go. And it seems to work much better that way than when I'm trying to control everything. So going back to my story, I grew up in Connecticut. I've lived all over the country. I spent most of my career in medical devices and equipment. And I will say I was very focused on that. I knew that that's what I wanted to do in my late 20s. And I said, I'm going to do it. And so I took a job, and I was the token female out of all 6 divisions for one of the largest medical surgical companies in the world. I'll repeat that. I was the token female out of all the sales divisions. So that was quite a feat in itself, just to do something like that. So when I do it big, I guess. So that started my career. And then I climbed into director level positions with Fortune 100 companies, where I was one of the few females in that role. And I will tell you, one of the things that always sticks in my mind is I would be in meetings and I would say, hey, we should blah, 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 blah. And then it was like nobody heard it. And then I would repeat it. And then some guy would say it. And then they would go, oh, John, that is such a great idea. So this happened over and over again. And then I was kind of watching what was happening in the medical field. And I have an entrepreneurial spirit anyway. And getting into Chinese medicine when I was 15, always kind of following that route of natural things and natural products. And even with the chronic sinus infections that I had, which I got bronchitis when I was 8. And then I got sinus infections, 20 years later, and I had them for over 20 years. And I was on this hamster wheel that I couldn't get off of antibiotics 6 times a year. And so here I am working conventional medicine, 7 years in sterilization and infection control products, and working with microbiologists and such. And I couldn't solve my issue. And so I was getting urinary tract infections and chronic yeast infections. And I said, all right, there has to be an answer to this. Like, I have to figure this out. So I ended up taking acidophilus. And so I took acidophilus, and it seem to help a little bit. And for those that don't know what acidophilus is, it is a probiotic, a good bacteria. And I was doing all sorts of other natural things to try to do that, take care of it. And I had some relief. And so I said, this is really interesting. I wonder what this is all about. So I have a scientific mind, and I wanted to do some research. So for 2 years, I was researching probiotics and their benefits, and there wasn't a lot of information. I mean, we're talking 2008, really not much out there except maybe Jamie Lee Curtis talking about, yogurt and things like that. But I was curious enough, and it was divine intervention. There's no question about it. So I discovered that there was another type of probiotics besides the type that you take for digestion, which are very fragile and temperature sensitive. And you find them in yogurts and kefir and things like that. But they come from soil. They're spores. And bacteria in general are spores. So when we think of apples to apples or apples to oranges, the stuff that we take for our digestion is the orange, and the other one is the apple. So they're very, very different. So I ended up discovering that these soil-based spore probiotics are efficacious in the harshest environments, meaning they can pretty much live between freezing to 120 degrees. They are warriors. They outcompete the worst bacteria that you can think of, like CRE, which is the worst form of MRSA, outcompete E. coli, things like that. And they do that in one specific way, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But it was like a eureka moment. I went, oh my God, my sinus infections are caused by this bacterial imbalance, and really more specifically something called biofilm, which we all know, even though we don't know, it's the plaque on our teeth. But it goes into many, many different areas. But that was causing my sinus infection. So I said, I need to do something with this. I have to stop what I'm doing. And I literally quit medical devices, and I put everything, it's like a card game. I literally put all the money I had, everything I had, into working to bring some products to the world that really are the most natural things and allow us to get things back the correct way that we need them. So I'm not going to talk about that yet, but that's kind of my journey of all this time in medical devices and nothing helping me. And then I finally discovered what I needed to do. So that's how I got here.
That's fantastic. So, you know what's interesting? I was involved with medical devices too for a long time.
Where?
In Southern California, Los Angeles.
Really?
Yeah.
Doing
I had
what?
a medical device company for about 10 years. I was the only woman, like you, the token woman. And I was like, I really dressed like a guy to go out there.
Yep, we did our stuff in our suit. Yep. Walk the walk, talk the talk. And the other thing I will say about that is I am a sensitive person, and like I said, I was always spiritual and I knew it, but I couldn't show people that, because the minute that I was vulnerable or showed anything, I appeared weak. And so you lose a big part of yourself when you're in environments like that, because you assimilate, and it doesn't allow for you to be your authentic self. And so I feel like I kind of lost what my authentic self was because my identity was my business, was my career.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I started my own business that I went through my true enlightenment and really figured out who I was at my core.
Yeah, yeah,
Did you have the
and
same thing?
businesses like those businesses do that, and not in our spiritual self, but they also force the feminine aspect of ourselves out as well. So how many women had to pretend to be men just to be noticed in these masculine industries?
Yep.
And it's so refreshing to be able to just be ourselves and not have to
Yes.
pretend to fit into a man's world. And it's like, you guys can have that. We're just going to go over here and do our own thing and make a difference in the world the way that we know how.
Yes. Yes. And it's, I will say starting my own business, and especially one that our mutual friend Steve said, Heather, you have 5D products in a 3D world. I couldn't get people to understand what I was doing. Investors, everything. No, people. I had men that told me to quit. I had a lot of men tell me that. Yep,
Because they don't understand.
you don't
Yeah.
want to do this. It's not going to work for you. Yeah.
I am
So
so glad you didn't listen to them.
I am too. I'm ecstatic, or I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So yeah, it's awesome.
So nature knows how to heal itself. We just have to find the clues.
Nature knows how to heal itself. And, if you think about the brainwashing that we've had for so long from these big companies selling bleach and disinfectants, and it doesn't matter even if it's bleach or disinfectant, it's just everything that we've had that we know now is like, wait a minute, that's not right. This isn't what we should be doing. And the other thing is for so long in our world, it was he who has the most marketing dollars wins, right? If I just have money to market my product, it can be the worst product in the whole world, but people will buy it. So I have been competing against that the entire time that I've been doing this, and understand starting a business in early 2009 when the country was just like in disarray, presented its own challenges. But again, the universe wouldn't let me do anything else. And every single time I tried to get out of it, it would literally slap me across the face and say, nope, you're not doing that. You are doing this. And so I'm right where I need to be. And as I kept repeating those words to myself, I'm right where I need to be. I'm right where I need to be. Everything else just kind of fell into place, and it's a lot easier now. But it's a challenge to get there. The other thing I think, and before we talk about kind of how nature comes into play here, but the other thing that happens is when you have to deal with your shadow side and really like get down to the nitty gritty of who you are and accept that, it's hard, right? It's challenging, and you go through a heck of a lot. And I'm watching so many friends do that right now, and they don't understand why certain things are why is this happening to me? And it's like, no, 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 it's not happening to you. So it it's a blessing at this point in time, because having gone through everything, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I'm able to kind of talk to them in a different way than I would have if I were in my ego self. And now being in my heart space, it's just a completely different approach with people. And even in my business, I have turned down investors. I've turned down opportunities because people were not in their heart space, and I can't work with anybody who's not in their heart space. So that makes for a little bit longer road as well, but that is my truth, and I'm staying in it. So getting back to the natural part of things and the probiotic or good bacteria part of things, for the past I don't know, 12 years, I've been educating people on the fact that if we don't change the way that we're dealing with our personal environment and what exists in our personal environment, um, it doesn't matter what you do to try to make your inside wonderful, meaning your gut and the things that you're trying to do to keep you healthy, because, with the whole COVID experience, people were waking up to the fact that they need to take better care of their immune systems. And so I find a lot of people went out and they started doing their D and their C and all the things that we need to do for ourselves right now. Also taking, other supplements and such. And there was a big push for colloidal silver and apple cider vinegar and a lot of other things. And essential oils and so on and so forth. And I was talking to people and saying, even using those things need to be done in moderation, because even if you're using the most natural products on your body or in the environment, or what you're cleaning your surfaces with, what you're cleaning your body with, what you ingest in even mouthwash in your mouth, most of the time there is some sort of antibacterial or killing agent or something there, even in the most natural things that we find, like I just mentioned. And there is no discernment between a good bacteria and a bad bacteria. No discernment whatsoever. So it'll just wipe out everything that's there. So it's no better than a disinfectant or a sterilant or whatever you may be using to kill bacteria, because once you kill bacteria, bacteria gets upset. I'll repeat that. Once you start killing bacteria, bacteria gets upset. So what bacteria does is it turns back on you. So bacteria always has the first word and the last word. Every single disease, everything we have starts with bacteria and ends with bacteria. And as an example of that, even with COVID and what happened, the end result was bacterial pneumonia. So if we start really thinking about it, and we think about how disease begins and ends or whatever it may be, it will always have a bacterial component. Bacteria outnumber us, and they literally control every environment that you're in. So we have been taught, with all the advertising and everything that we've done, that we can kill enough bacteria to be safe, number one, and clean. And number two, that our germs are the enemy. Germs are the enemy. We need to kill it. We need to kill the germs. Now, our world has changed. So now we're in we need to focus on what's called a terrain environment. So what that means is a terrain, or what is in that space. Now, let's say that we're in Florida and it gets very moist there, right? It's constantly battling molds and fungus and things like that. Now, let me say first that we need the molds, the fungus, the bacteria, the viruses. We need all of those things. And when they're in a beautiful microbiome, just everything coexisting, balanced, working together symbiotically, life is beautiful. You cannot get sick when an environment is like that. However, we live in this day and age where we get barraged with almost 260 pounds of environmental toxins annually. 260 pounds. And that's not just the cleaning agents that you're using, that's EMFs and everything else. But I'm not going to talk about those today. What we're going to talk about is specifically what is surrounding you where you exist. So where you are is where you are, right? So whether you're at work, you go to the movies, you go to the grocery store, every single thing that you encounter bacterially or whatever in that environment comes home with you.
Right.
Right?
Well, and that's why people are wiping everything clean and using their hand sanitizer.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah. So here we are, and we're not thinking about that because I just clean my counters with bleach and I come home and I'm clean, right? I'm clean. Or I just clean my counters with vinegar. I'm clean. No, you're not. Sorry, you're not. So now we have to look at it in the context of I bring all that stuff home. Now it exists in my environment. And what I'm using in that environment to think I'm clean is not doing its job. So you literally are vulnerable to everything that you encounter. So when we think about our personal space, we have to think of it in terms of 4 avenues that you can be affected. One is the surfaces you touch. Second is the air that you breathe or what's around you. The third is your skin, and your skin absorbs 80% of what it comes in contact with. And then the last is your mouth. Your mouth is the gateway to your brain and your gut health.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing all this stuff to keep my gut good and maybe I'm taking probiotics, maybe I'm, doing these supplements and I feel like a champion because I know I'm doing the right stuff for my body. Well, guess what? Your external environment, your space around you, and those 4 avenues I just talked about, they have their own immune system.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. So when we wipe out the bacteria like an antibiotic does in our gut, and we do that on our surface, our counter, we're doing the exact same thing that an antibiotic does to our gut.
Oh, got it. Got it. And antibiotics I have not had a good experience with them. Yeah.
So an antibiotic wipes out all of our good bacteria. It takes at least 6 months to replenish that in our systems. And in the meantime, we can get urinary tract infections, yeast infections, a cold, the flu, sinus infection, whatever it may be. So we're vulnerable. So we are at a crucial point right now because of the overuse of antibacterials, antibiotics, disinfectants, where we've got to replenish and repopulate the right bacteria and the correct amount of bacteria in each of those areas that I talked about. And so by doing that, by letting nature repopulate itself to the point where it needs to, not overpopulate, but repopulate to that bacterial balance level, everything gets cleaner, everything gets healthier. So that's really what I set out to do. And this is what I've been talking to people about for 12 years. And now people are finally understanding it. And it took COVID probably to wake people up to understand that. So even in the midst of chaos, there is calmness and understanding. So this is really the track that is happening right now, and people are getting this. But what we really need to understand is that we wouldn't have infection and disease in 80% of the cases if we did one specific thing.
What's that?
That is to allow the right good bacteria to go to the microscopic level to eliminate, remember that biofilm I talked about? Well, that biofilm is responsible for up to 80% of all disease and infection.
Wow. Wow. And you said that it's everywhere, right? It's not just the film on our
Literally
feet.
everywhere. So it's up your nose, it's on your skin, it's on your counters, and it doesn't stay stationary. It breaks off. I'm going over here, I'm going over here, I'm going to break up here, I'm going to do that. And it literally goes everywhere. So my sinus infection was caused by a buildup of biofilm in my nasal passage. And the interesting thing is it started out bacterially with a bacteria infection, which is why the Z-Packs for sinus infections work so well initially. And then the sinus infections get worse and worse because now you've killed off all of your good bacteria. And then on top of it, it's not bacterial anymore, it's fungal.
Oh, that's interesting.
So now we're throwing an antibiotic at a fungal issue.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So let's think about eczema, psoriasis, orthopedic.
I want to think about psoriasis.
Yeah.
That's my
Okay.
issue, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have a biofilm issue on your skin.
Okay. I
Yeah.
need help with that. Well,
So-
I've actually just have since discovered that it's a gut issue. So I'm working on the inside.
Good.
Yet there's also something that I want to be able to do on the outside. So I'm on a mission to eliminate it from my body. So I'm finished with the lesson that it needed to teach me. So
Awesome.
I'm ready to let it go.
So that's a good example, Victoria, of I'm working on my gut to fix my psoriasis issue, yet your personal environment is not in balance. So this is where it is super important to repopulate the bacteria on your skin, to get your environment clean to the point, not boy in the bubble, but just where you're in a healthy living biodome of health. And I always call it a biodome of health because it makes you think of boy in the bubble, but it's not, it's biodome, but literally like just healthy, like you're just living as you should be living naturally. And not having to think and worry about what you're battling on a consistent basis, right?
Right.
Which if we're not in a fear mindset, then we know that we're not going to be worrying about that anyway. But I'm sure if I asked you, if you could use the absolute best products ever, and it will actually have a health benefit for you, and they're economically feasible, what would you say?
Absolutely.
Let me do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I only use natural stuff in my house anyway. I don't use chemicals and haven't for years. But if there's something even better, of course.
Yeah. So if you think of a surface, we'll talk about cleaning your counters and your bathrooms and your floors and things like that. If you think of a surface in 3 layers, the first layer is what you're cleaning with your natural product. That's just the surface. And I'll use vinegar as an example, hydrogen peroxide at the surface level. The second layer is enzymes. So like OxyClean or scrubbing bubbles or whatever it may be, enzymes further break things down. But that third level is where the biofilm is. So the only thing that the enzymes are going to do is to kind of, if you took a pen, I actually have a video of this on YouTube, but you literally poke it with a pen and that's all it does. So people think that, oh my gosh, I took enzymes, it cured me, I feel so much better. And then, 6 months later, I'm like, why did it come back? it came back because the source of your issue is still there. That biofilm is still there. So we have to use the combination of detergents that hit the first level, enzymes that hit the second level, and then the third level is where the probiotics go to actually clean away the biofilm that's there. If you imagine a scrimmage, okay, and in the middle is the football, but we'll make it food instead of a football. So I have the opposing teams, and they come in and they're scrimmaging, and the good team starts to push the bad team back away from the food, and it keeps it there like a barrier. And so the bad team just kind of fizzles out. So in this example, the good bacteria and the bad bacteria scrimmage. And it's always about eating food to keep them alive, right?
Right.
Well, our probiotic bacteria just take all the food and starve the bacteria out so that they can't form more biofilm. So this is all a natural process. We're not implementing a chemical or this or that into the process. Just what is naturally occurring in nature to let this process take place. And so by doing that, we don't create resistant bacteria. We don't create any resistance. We don't disrupt Mother Nature. And everything goes back to balance the way that it should be. So
wow.
It's
so where do these probiotics come from? You said something about the soil.
Yeah. So I watched Catherine Edwards, and actually I just watched her yesterday talking, and they do a lot with animals, talk about how to take care of your animals and things on her shows. And we do work with pets also. Actually, we started in livestock. So all of our studies were in livestock initially. But she was saying that soil probiotics, you can't really call them probiotics. And I haven't talked to her to find out why. But in any case, we'll talk in context of spore probiotics today. Okay. But they do come from the soil versus plants, which what you're taking probably for your gut right now, and I don't know, but is probably plant-based.
Yes.
And they're cultures, so they're very sensitive. They require sugar to stay alive. So there are some probiotic cleaners out there, but they're plant-based and they have some sugar substance in them. Do you really want to put sugar on your counter? Because it just creates more biofilm. So it's like, what are you doing? But so these, in the context of the type of bacteria that you do need, is the spore bacteria, and not just on the outside of you, but inside you too. They have the ability, when they're in your external environment, to keep everything truly clean by keeping the biofilm away and keeping bacterial balance. Internally, and 70% of our customers drink our mouthwash because everything we have is food grade and pH neutral and non-GMO and no chemicals and so forth, and simple ingredients. But the efficacy of those probiotics internally have been proven exponentially in many studies to make it through the bile system to the colon, and they've helped with SIBO and leaky gut and many other things. And they can act like a natural antibiotic if they need to do their battle. And then they go dormant and they come back when you need them.
Oh, wow.
So it's very cool. And the other thing is they never multiply, whether you're using them to clean or mouthwash or whatever it may be. They never multiply more than plus or minus 10%, which is bacterial balance. So if you talk to any infection control person or microbiologist, that's the barometer, plus or minus 10%. So they'll never overpopulate. What makes biofilm so dangerous in the context of bad bacteria is it locks in, it adheres to that surface or wherever it's going. The probiotics also have a biofilm, but it's a floating biofilm, so it never adheres. So
Okay.
there's a big difference between the two. So, and when we use the word biofilm, it is for bad bacteria a protective shelter, impervious shelter. Even the CDC says that it makes antibacterials and disinfectants ineffective. Biofilm makes those things ineffective, but we know it's there because they're creating it. And so is hydrogen peroxide. So is vinegar. So is a citrus product. So are essential oils.
Right.
And I don't want to dog essential oils. I love them for all of you people out there that use them, but we have to use them wisely so that we don't completely disrupt the microbiome and the bacterial environment.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've been using tea tree.
I'm going to ask you to stop using tea tree.
Okay.
It's an endocrine disruptor.
Okay.
So that may be part of the issue that you're having with your psoriasis. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you mentioned leaky gut because I recently discovered the correlation between psoriasis and leaky gut.
Yes.
So I'm all about let's get that fixed so that what's on the outside can get fixed. So I'm loving this conversation.
Good.
Issues.
Because you're not alone. 70% of our customers have some sort of autoimmune disease, including Lyme and fibromyalgia and such, Morgellons. But also, when I went on Nicholas and the people that bought from us and came to us from that, 70% of the people that I spoke with have some sort of autoimmune disease, and it's climbing. And if you did take the jab, one of the downsides of it or side effects of it is that we're finding a majority of the people, if you didn't have autoimmune disease before, you're getting it now because it is impeding your natural antibodies with what was put in with the jab. And so it's super important that you have something in your personal environment, as everyone else should have, but it would definitely make a huge difference if you had the jab as well.
Okay.
So
it said that added immune system boost.
Yes, okay. Because at the end of the day, it's all about our immune system, whether it's internal or external. So I'm sure if I surveyed 10 people, 10 out of 10 would go, I didn't know I had an immune system in my house. Like nobody would know that, right?
Yeah. Maybe they don't really think we think of ourselves as having an immune system, but not our house, which makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about, like, as an example, being in a moist climate versus a dry climate. A moist climate, you're battling a different terrain than you are in a dry climate. But the need to create bacterial balance does not change at all in those environments. It just may mean that you may have more biofilm in one area than you do in the other. Now, what you battle all the time, and especially in a drier environment, we shed 1.5 pounds of skin yearly. Wow. Yeah. So, and we don't know that, right? We don't think about that.
Just leave skin everywhere we go.
Yeah. So we don't think about that. But the dust mite, people buy covers, they change their pillows, they do all this stuff. It's not the dust mite that you're actually allergic to. It's their excrement, their poop. And so our probiotics, especially the stuff that you spray on your furniture and up your nose and your ears and everything, that eats the excrement of the dust mite.
Okay, I have to tell you why this excites me from a completely different reason. My cat is allergic to dust mites, severely.
How did you find that out?
Blood tests.
That's crazy.
He's like losing all of the fur on his belly. He's got like completely naked. So we spent a whole year trying to figure out why he's hairless on his whole belly, and we tried different kinds of food, did the whole elimination diet. It wasn't any food. So we finally resorted to blood tests, had a full allergy blood test, and one of the level 5 allergic reaction to wool. So we got rid of all the wool in our house, and dust mites. I'm like, how the heck am I going to help with dust mites? They're everywhere. So
hello,
he's a little hairless belly. He's going to be so happy.
Poor baby. Well, I will tell you. So let's back up for a second. So we started in livestock. So we were cleaning the barns with our stuff. Prior to our product, they were wearing hazmat suits with respirators and with the animals. Okay, so you're going to clean your barn in a hazmat suit with these chemicals, and you spray them all around, and then they would hose them off. So with ours, they hose them off, no gloves, no respirator, no protective equipment, spray it on, spray it off. And we use something called an ATP meter to test the cleanliness of a surface. So, and this is on our website too, but it's been used by hospitals and USDA food processing plants. And they, especially the food processing plants, they have to pass on this meter before they can even start working. And they couldn't pass before us. And now they can pass. But so we found that when we measured it, and the ATP meter gives you an irrefutable numeric number for cleanliness, okay? And things that are 30 and below in a regular environment in your home are food grade, okay? So 30 and below, you're in a food grade arena. If you are over that, then that means there's a greater presence of biofilm. And as the number goes up, that means that surface is dirty, dirtier, dirtiest, really dangerous, pathogenic. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they had pathogenic status in many areas because a barn is just a free floating nightmare, right? Mm-hmm. Of germs. So cleaning the barns, putting product into the drinking lines, and cows have multiple stomachs. And so the farmers are graded on something called somatic cell count, and they have to be at least at 220,000 to sell their milk. If they're at 200,000, they get more money for their milk. We were getting it down to 126,000. Wow. So consistently. So the milk got healthier and better tasting. The cheese got better. We got rid of antibiotics. The teats, they were cleaning with iodine. And when they were sprayed with our stuff, they were supple, no cracks. We took a cow with ocular cancer and applied the probiotics. And in 2 weeks, no antibiotics. In 2 weeks, it was returned to the herd. Turkeys have sensitive respiratory systems. They're very hard to raise because of that. They get cholera, listeria, things like that. And so what we did is we got the turkeys panting. We sequestered them with cholera and listeria, got them panting, and pumped our stuff in, and it got rid of the cholera and listeria, and returned those turkeys to the flock. So in the barns, they pump in our stuff similar to what you spray around your house and stuff. Mm-hmm. And the animals get healthier, and the excrement doesn't bring flies around, and their skin is more supple, and no antibiotics. So that means that the antibiotics are not going into the food supply, into the soil, which is so much better. So I took all of those experiences in livestock to create a lifestyle line for we humans. So, us humans. So it literally is designed to cover all of those areas that I talked about, whether it's your mouth, we have mouthwash, body wash, allergy, asthma, sinus spray, to spray up your nose and your ears. And that's my baby because it got me off of all of my antibiotics and literally changed my life. So I haven't been sick. When I get run down, I start getting mucus and everything else. And I just gargle my mouthwash and spray up my nose and I'm good to go. But we also have surface cleaner. And the neat part about the surface cleaner is that when you apply it, it keeps cleaning for a week for you because you always have live bacteria. Wherever you apply it, you're using live bacteria. And that's really important to think about because a lot of the probiotics that you're getting, when they process them, they lose their efficacy when they're in dried form. And so ours are dormant in the bottle, with the exception of the sprays. They're ready to use, but dormant in the bottle. And when you add some water, it pops the probiotics to come alive and do their job. So we have super long shelf life and it's really cool. So surface cleaner, and that bottle makes 9 gallons. So when I talked about being economical, our stuff is really economical. And I haven't changed the pricing since I started almost because I want people to have these products. I want to make it affordable. And the health benefit of them is phenomenal because for you, for instance, whether you have eczema, psoriasis, acne, or some other skin condition, what I usually have people do is to wash in the body wash. I'll have them take some of the mouthwash and press it into the affected areas. And then you have the skin spray that we have where you can just do spot spray throughout the day if you feel like you have a flare up. So that seems to work extremely well with people. But I also have you drink the mouthwash, half a teaspoon and 6 to 8 ounces of water. So it's super important that we hit the inside and the outside, and that they work in tandem with each other. And the same goes for your pets. So we didn't forget about the pets. And because we worked in livestock, our formulations are so important for the pets. So we have a water additive that goes into their drinking water. Cats are a little more difficult, so you might have to put it in their food. Dogs love the taste. Cats, for some reason, not so much. And also we have an odor and itch spray, and that'll be really good for your cat's fur.
Yes.
Great but spraying a cat is also challenging. So I will tell you that. So you may just have to spray around the cat and not directly on the cat. And if you watch one of our YouTube videos, I show how I spray my corgi. I have a cardigan corgi and she has big ears. And when she sits out on the porch and she is in the rain, she's prone to ear infections. So I just squirt directly in her ear. And for dogs that swim and stuff, and it's super important. And then we have a gentle pet shampoo. So more and more pets are getting allergies, and the vets cannot tell what's going on. And so even if the foods change, there's still allergies. And I'll go back to the fact that we have 260 pounds of environmental toxins that we're getting barraged with. So by you cleaning with the probiotics and getting it on your floors and just in your air and around you, the pets benefit as well. And I know you have a cat, but for those of you that have a dog, we share 6,000 different types of bacteria with them. So these are really, really beneficial as well for that, because a lot of the bacteria we use, probably most of it, is assimilated by the body anyway, and the environment. So it understands it, it works with it, and it's not a foreign entity coming into that space.
So
So
this is really fantastic, because I'm thinking, because so many more people have allergies than they used to, and I've often wondered about that. I'm like, why are so many people experiencing allergies that they never did before? And that makes sense, because we have so many more toxins in our environment than we ever used to have.
much more. And then I'll pose this to you. We're in danger because of the over sanitization and disinfection that was pushed during this time. And we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We're in big trouble, because I don't care about COVID. I don't care about any of that. Never did. But because I'm not in fear, but I do. And I'm not in fear of what I'm about to say, but I'm concerned, which is that we're going to see more virulent strains of superbugs, super molds.
Yeah, and I
super
would
fungus.
agree. So I kind of tuned into this years ago when my kids were small, back in early 2000, and there was another huge push for antibacterial everything. And I did not do it. I was one of those weird moms that made my kids go outside and play in the mud. I was like, no shoes. I want you playing in the mud. I want you, and my daughter would eat dirt. I'm like, that's fine. You need all that bacteria. And I haven't ever used antibacterials in my house, because
I'm proud of you.
Good, strong immune systems. And I grew up in a house that was not my mom. There were 12 of us, so my mom couldn't possibly clean up after us. So my house was pretty much always dirty, and we all have really good, strong immune systems because we grew up with the dirt. And I was always outside playing.
Oh, so was I. I played in the dirt and the mud and the streams.
The kids now were like, keep your shoes on. I used to get yelled at because my kids would go without shoes. Where are your kids' shoes? I'm like, I don't know. My kids don't need shoes. It's not that we can't afford them. I just prefer my kids to be barefoot whenever possible. And my son, when he was little, he would call them his better feet. Mommy, I want to go with my better feet. So we would just have no shoes.
That's awesome.
And so I've been aware of this issue for a long time, the overkilling of bacteria and the antibiotics we feed the animals, and how that affects us when I don't eat meat, but if we eat meat, we're experiencing that. And the superbugs that are being created because of the overuse of antibacterials and antibiotics, and the bugs that have become resistant to antibiotics because of the overuse of that. So I'm loving this conversation, because I think this is something people really need to understand. And I'm going to go buy the products as soon as I get off the show. I want some of them.
Well, I appreciate that. It's, if you really start to understand this, and I think people that are awake understand this, it makes sense. Because I will tell you this, I own this company, and I don't have any other products in my house. I walk the walk and talk the talk, but I will tell you, I don't use my mouthwash every day. I use it because I used it so much. I have a cumulative effect. My probiotics in my environment don't have to work very hard, because I've already done my job. I've already used them consistently for a little bit. And then you can just, when you clean, it's cleaning for you for a week. So if you have to do a spot cleaning, there's no need to do a deep cleaning, every week. So I just, it's strange that I'm saying this to people, but I don't want you to think that you should use this every day, all day, and just load yourself up, because the probiotics will stop at a certain point anyway, and you're just going to waste your money. So I do talk about that to people, and maybe I shouldn't say that to people, but I am saying that to you. And I would encourage you also, if you are taking supplements and other things, and you're taking them every day, think again, because our immune system has memory. It will keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's why with my sinus infections, I had triggers. So the weather would change. I wouldn't get enough sleep. I drank too much, whatever it may be. And your immune system goes, oh, we're going here. So you have to keep it awake and shaken and like shocked as much as possible. And the best way to do that is with your supplements and things like that, is to alternate them and maybe do something every other day, or you do this one this day and this one this day, and then mix it up opposite the next week.
Okay.
People that were on the apple cider vinegar kick, were doing it every day, and they found when they stopped taking it, they were getting a cold, they were getting the flu. Your immune system got lazy. That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
All right, because it's looking for it. Got to keep it up.
And the same thing with the daily probiotics, same kind of thing.
The same thing with the daily probiotics. And the reason that's different than our stuff, because you can use our stuff every day. I'm just saying it's not going to harm you. It's not going to change the way that they're working for you. I'm just saying after you use them for a while, don't worry if you forget to use the mouthwash, or you're not spraying every day, you're spraying every couple of days or whatever, it's not going to hurt you. But taking the supplements or something like that, same thing with colloidal silver. Again, something that can't discern between the good and the bad bacteria is going to cause problems. Because it will wipe out all of your good bacteria. So you want to use things like that don't have the ability to stop at plus or minus 10%. They just keep going. Use them sparingly and mix it up.
That's a great idea. So all these different supplements people are taking, maybe do one day, one another day, like maybe Mondays you take this, Tuesdays you take this. So that way the immune system doesn't get. And
then I'd make it opposite the next week. Okay. So I would.
Okay. Oh no, you froze.
I would say that you're using them, and they'll work. And strangely enough, they'll actually work more efficiently for you.
That is great. Yeah, that's fantastic advice. Well, our time is up. I'm going to put your banner down here at the bottom for people.
Awesome.
So they can find you. I should have put that up a few minutes ago.
It's okay.
And I will put it in the comments below as well. Once I go back into YouTube and make this all pretty for a permanent part of the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
so much. And I thought I knew a lot about probiotics and all of that. And I've discovered I did not know nearly as much as I thought I did. And so I am so incredibly grateful for what I've learned today. I am so incredibly grateful for you and for the work that you're doing in the world. And I love the transparency also because I know this isn't happening in the real world that says you need to clean with blah, 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 blah every day. I love that. I love the honesty and the transparency that comes with that, and telling people the truth of how things are. Love that. And it's funny, you were saying earlier that people with the most money for marketing make the most money. And what I didn't come back with is say, but in this world we're in, the people who have the most friends make the most money.
There we go. That's
so
true.
It's more about who you know and this world of collaboration and cooperation that we're creating. It's not about buying the rights to be on the shelves of grocery stores anymore. Now it's about who do you know and how can we mutually support each other, and what impact and what difference are we making in the world. And I see that with you, and I'm so delighted to meet you and to hear what you're up to and the difference that you're making in the world. And I'm going to share you far and wide. And
thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you for having me on here and to be able to talk to you. I feel like I already know you, through Steve. I mean, it's funny. Like
Yeah,
he
and
just
likewise.
sings your
He
praises.
said he asked me if he could be on my show. I was like, oh my gosh, yes. He's talking about you all the time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I should be going back on Nicholas, so I don't have a date yet, but that's fun because I want to talk more about biofilm. I think people really need more information on it and to understand it more. So if you'd like to talk about that at some other time, that might be a good topic to go
Okay,
over.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll bring you on again, most definitely. After
awesome.
I'm pretty booked out for the next month, but we'll
That's
see what
that's
else
good
we
because
have
I can't even like tell you what's going on. So, yeah, I'm actually speaking at a world forum, web forum with all these scientists and stuff at the end of the month.
Wow,
I
that
got
is
I got my
fantastic.
abstract accepted, but a lot of what we talked about will be talked about there too.
That is
Wake them
great.
up a little bit, which is good.
That's fantastic. Well, see, this is the world that we're moving into. This world of, again, like I was saying, mutual support and seeing beyond what we've all been told to believe. So,
Amen.
yep. Well, thank you for being here. It's time to say goodbye. But before
Okay.
you go, I'm going to do my little mantra that I do at the end of every show. Remember, everyone, to hold your light so high that others can't help but see their own light. Together, we will create a world of peace, harmony, and freedom for all. And as always, remember to get bold, be fearless, and live free. Mwah.
Bye.